Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed Video.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Celia Denny, who has 13 children and she's a homeschool mum as well to all of them, all 12 of them actually. But she'll tell us a little bit more about her amazing story. I call her Miracle Mum because she's calm amongst everything and homeschools all her children. She's amazing. Welcome back. Welcome to the program again this week.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to have 13 children, or just a little bit about your background and your children?
I guess our story follows that of a lot of people getting married nowadays. John brought into the relationship his own daughter, Cara. She's nearly 30 now and has 3 of her own children. And I brought Martin. And then we'd both, me thanks to Martin, and John, when his de facto relationship broke up with his daughter's mother, became very depressed, and one of the things he did was turn to God in that depression. And me having Martin at 18 had sort of woken me up and thought, oh, I've been pretty stupid, but I've got Martin, so now it's time to pick myself up and move on a bit. And we met at university. We were studying. John's come from quite a secular background, quite an unchurched background. And my own background is that my mother returned to her Catholic faith when I was about 9 and my sister about 10. So she brought us back to church then. So, and I think she's, been trying hard ever since. And Dad returned to the church. He's sort of baptised as a baby, but had never bothered going to church. And so my parents' journeys is where mine started, of course, but in terms of the faith as well is also where mine started as a wake-up. They sort of realised too that maybe there were things they should have taught myself and my sister that they had not done, because the world said, well, you don't have to teach them those sort of things anymore, about faith and about God and about belief. So John and I met at uni, and because I was a Catholic and because the first church he'd wandered into in a very bad state was a Catholic church that happened to be open at the time. It wasn't normally open at that hour, and he experienced quite a rich and deep conversion of his own in a very spiritual way that's often denied to a lot of cradle Catholics for some time. You have to experience your own conversion. And a lot of people who come into the church experience a wonderful conversion that many of us who've grown up as Catholics mightn't understand at quite the same level. We have to experience that, and for me that was having Martin and think, it was a wake-up call. It was a wonderful baby, and he was, it just opened a new world, this tiny new life, so that helped.
And then after this, so then you got together, you married each other.
Yep.
And had how many more children after that?
Together we've had 11. One was stillborn in 2010 after a road accident, and we've had 2 more, Benedict and Hamish, who'll be 2 soon, and 5. So we didn't set out to have a big family. Yeah. In fact, I don't even think it was something we discussed. But we married as Catholics. Yeah. John was actually received into the church after we got married. Yeah. So we've lived a Catholic life. I do recall after James was born, he was my 3rd and John's 3rd, but together our 2nd if you want the maths. Yeah. It was actually the first time I'd read Humane Vitae after James was born, because I was so terribly depressed, like postnatal depression. So that was, I thought, well, I need to know some other reasons for having another child, because I felt so bad. So I was reading Humane Vitae and I thought, well, this sounds really true. it's difficult. Obviously, it's not enough for some people to say, oh, it sounds true. But I mean, it seemed reasonable from what I knew of history and human nature, and it seemed based on and grounded in a genuine concern for people and marriage and relationships.
Can you tell us a little bit about Humane Vitae for those who don't know?
It's just a document which defends, sets out, promotes and embraces the Church's teaching on marriage and family as being very pro-life. Marriage is a sacrament. Sacraments bring new life. For a married couple, that's a very concrete thing. Your sacramental sign is a new life. You've got to baptise 9 months later. So it's a very real, concrete thing. This outpouring of grace and of love and of sacrament. Sometimes we might think those words are a bit sentimental and a bit soft, but they're not. They're very firm. Sometimes there's not a lot of comfort in them, except to know that you're doing the right thing.
And where do people get hold of Humane Vitae if they want to read it?
Online. Just download it.
Okay.
And buy it from a bookshop even, I would think.
And so that sort of supports the idea of having children, and then you just thought, and then all of a sudden...
But once again, it's never a conscious thing, oh, we want 12 children. It was just simply the fact that me falling pregnant again, it was fun. It was about names, especially as the older kids were a little bit older. It was a case where choosing a name for the new sibling became very much a family affair.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh, why are you choosing that? Oh, So lots of input.
I remember that with my siblings.
Yeah.
And
it was very much. It was fun. It was something that I had not been exposed to, and I wouldn't have expected. I didn't expect it, but they've all got in on the act of choosing a name for that new baby. And say, oh, we don't like that one, so you can't have it. Yeah. Type of thing.
Oh, that's beautiful. So it was a joint venture to choose the names. That's so lovely. And so then you had, after each child, were you thinking, oh my gosh, how can we manage with a 7th child or 8th child or 9th or 10th?
No, it's sort of never been that. I found 3 was difficult. I had difficulties for having 3 children. For some reason that seemed overwhelming.
Oh. But not 13.
No. So it's sort of getting on. And suddenly things which I thought were important aren't. I know people say that all the time, but it's true. With a bigger family, we don't go out so often, so when we do, it's fun. Yeah. We go out, I'm not stressed, it's just fun. Even if it's groceries.
Yeah, because you just enjoy each other's company, and you've grown to get to know each other so well.
Yeah,
and
that's
to
right.
know who you are amongst each other. But we have to go to a break now.
Yep.
You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Celia Denny, who has 13 children and she's homeschooling them, and she's a wonderful mum. We call her Miracle Mum. Well, I do anyway. Welcome to the program. Welcome back. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about being calm, like teaching us how to be calm, because they're parents with 1 child, 2 child, 3 children, but they lose it all the time. They just there's non-stop screaming or shouting, and there's no behaviour, and there's no obedience with the children.
Yep.
What sort of advice could you give them on how to manage their emotions without losing it with the children? Because children are children, so they're going to want their own way. All these kind of dynamics are going on with the family.
I think first and foremost, your child isn't being irritating to wind you up. There'll be something. He's hungry, he's tired, you've decided to do the groceries after a long day at school or a day out. He's going to be irritable. So I think not to assume guilt or malice on the part of your child. And then secondly, if you forget everything else when you've gone out, always take your sense of humour. Model the behaviour you want to see. If you want your child to be calm, you've got to be calm. And then, another thing, what do you want your child's memories to be made of? There's a happy, calm mum and dad, or an angry, aggressive mum and dad, because that's what they will do for their children. So it's very easy to get angry when you're out in public, you can't find parking, or you're short of cash, as we usually are, and you've got a budget to stick to, and but those are just side issues. You've got to. It's only today you need to worry about. It's only today. It's only right now doing the right thing. And the right thing to do is not to lose your temper, least well in public, and shout at your child. He's not doing that deliberately. If he's playing up, I want this, I want that, then you've got to set the good habits. You've got to say, we don't buy junk when we're out. So you've just got to, and you've got to do it all the time. And then they learn. And if it's a case that you think it's getting out of hand, then you might need to think, well, what solutions can I provide? If I'm going out, I'm going to grab some sandwiches before I go, or we'll just have a good time out. Or it's frustrating to see mums shouting at children, and it's just not the child's fault. And I want to go up even to the women and say, you actually don't have to do that. You're free. You don't have to do that. There's a time out with your child. Spend that time together. Look at the clothes in the shops, or browse through, look at the people. What are the other people doing in the shops? So it's just take your sense of humour with you. It's really not that bad. It really isn't. If your child is cranky and he's scratchy, and you just give him a hug. Nothing wrong foots a kid when it's chucking a temper tantrum. Just to envelope that child in a loving hug if you can, or a squeeze of the arm, or come on, just a little bit longer and we'll go home, or whatever it might do. But calmness starts with me. It starts with the one who's supposed to be in control. And I'm not calm when I'm loud or aggressive or angry or slapping at a child. So, and it's not fair on them. We've found a chap called Dr. Ray Guarendi, or I have. A friend put me onto him. He's an American child psychiatrist. He has 10 of his own children, which he's adopted. He and his wife adopted special needs children because she couldn't have any of her own. She's homeschooled them. Possibly she should be a doctor or something as well. But he's excellent for discipline. So that's Dr. Ray Guarendi. He's, buy books or you can, he's online.
And you've read his books or you've seen him
Yeah,
online?
I bought a couple.
What's his name?
He's an American chap. It's Dr. Ray and it's Guarendi, Guari. And so it's Guarendi.
Okay. And what are the names? Do you know the names of his books off by heart, or?
No, I don't. But it's things
look
like discipline for the teen years,
years,
which people are worrying about,
Yeah.
and it's very grounded, very common sense stuff. And it does involve mum taking a look at herself or dad taking a look at himself, and it's knowing too that when something's gone wrong, you actually don't need to deal with it there and then. If it's very bad, you can say, right, I've lost my temper right now, so you're going to step away and I'm going to step away and we'll be calmer then.
Yeah.
So come back. If it's that bad, step away.
Yeah, there's a few books. There's another book out called Scream-Free Parenting.
Okay.
And they sort of talk about like giving the children a discipline. Like if they don't do what they're told, they don't scream at the child, they just take something away. Okay, you're going to behave like that. If you do this, you lose this. So
I think that backfired.
But there's
I think that backfires to me. There has to be a case where the child accepts and, if you like, internalises your authority and their obedience. And just removing something might solve the problem for some behaviours, but not for others. And when you're out, that child and you need to know that there are behaviours that you're going to have to accept, and you're going to be calm, you're going to be cheerful. It's good fun. You're out. Have fun.
It's beautiful. It's good. It's really lovely speaking to you about this on these topics, because these aren't just homeschool issues. These are just parental issues.
That's right.
Bringing up children, because we want to bring up children that, are great in society.
They want their own children when they're older.
Yeah.
They look back on their childhood as a place of security, of love, and of confidence. And I don't think just by shouting at them like that, I don't think that's going to, it's not going to happen.
Okay, that's beautiful.
You can't get it all wrong today.
Yeah.
But today's probably the most important day that matters.
Yeah. And so you don't believe in the scream-free idea where they take something away if the behaviour, so they know if they do that behaviour.
If it was a case where there was fighting over that object, that's when I'd take the object away. But to say, I see you've you've smashed a window with a cricket ball, that's it. You've lost your train set. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect up. There has to be, your child needs to know that if there is a punishment, you are going to carry through on it, and it's reasonable.
Okay, we have to go to a break now. You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Oh, hey, fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 tick,
festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. We're here with Celia Denny, who has 13 children and she's homeschooled 12 of them. She's done a wonderful job, and she's done a wonderful job also in bringing up her children to be well-mannered, respectful, kind, loving, happy children. Welcome back to the program, Celia. Now, just for every parent, really, we're bringing up our children to become good citizens, good adults who don't run into problems when they're adults. So what are some of the things as a child in the way that you would discipline them when they do the wrong thing? What are some of the other things you did? We talked a little bit off camera about some of the methods you use with saying a Hail Mary, and what's the benefit of that and what it is.
Okay, prayer is certainly something that we turn to because it lifts our hearts and minds to God who created us, and also His Son, of course, who died on the cross for our sins. But in our family setting, we recognise that disobedience brings discord and unhappiness and aggression, so that has to be undone. And it's undone through reparation for what you've done, which is a punishment. But not only just a punishment to say, okay, you've lost a freedom or a privilege, you have to do something as well. So I've used window washing, floor washing, pegging washing online. I've used those as punishments because you do something for someone else, whether it's for not only the person you've injured, but the whole organic body, which is your family. It helps all of them. When you've done this, you've got a little time. The child has a little bit of time to mull over what he or she has done. I've had them write essays. I've still got some that I treasure that I got my daughter, who's now 18, to write. It's either essays or lists of why I should not have done whatever that thing might have been. It might have been harmful gossip or hurtful words. Another thing I like to do, if there's been a particular amount of fighting between two of the siblings, is they have to do something for each other. So sometimes it's an act of forgiveness for somebody to either make tea or coffee or get some biscuits or cake for the person who's injured them, as much as it has to come back the other way. The person who has committed the offence also has to have that generosity in their heart to say I'm sorry, to apologise for their actions. Most of the kids have discovered it's a bit harder to forgive than it is to apologise. But if we can't get that rot out with so many people in the house, it could probably pretty rapidly deteriorate into an unmanageable situation. So that forgiveness has to flow. The kids have to see that myself and John also try. Sometimes it doesn't work. Married couples have bad days too. To have at least that forgiveness or that charity or the forbearance. Sometimes the only person I can change is me. So I'm the only person who is able to sit down and say, I have to take a different attitude to some other person in the house, whatever it might be, causing trouble or giving grief or just having a problem. And do you find through all these methods that the love grows deeper as a family through going through these difficult times, but going through them and going beyond them? Certainly, we have our own family history. If you like, it's been going for 20 odd years. That's 20 years of history, and we can't throw it away, and we can't imperil it in any fashion because we have to build another 20 years. As kids get older. And for us to do that means just doing the right thing here and now, today.
In the present moment, yeah. Exactly. And as far as socialisation, because you often hear about socialisation when people say you're homeschooling, oh, well, what about their social skills? Well, I can tell you, just looking at your children, they've got impeccable social skills. They can talk to anyone at any age level. They're all happy. They're all smiling. They're lovely children. They even bring tears to my eyes because they're so sweet. You know, even the boys, teenage boys, very sweet.
Teenage boys are great.
Well-mannered, you know. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've understood about socialisation in your experience?
Well, define socialisation. The people who say to me, oh, what about the socialisation, have generally stopped me at an Irish dancing class where they're all socialising quite well with, you know, all the other kids, or they've, it's a case where they've just finished complaining about something their school has done or something that their child did at school, all in the name of socialisation. So I'm a bit of a sceptic when it comes to socialisation. There's probably a lot of children who have experienced bullying right today at school, and that's socialisation. It's just not very nice socialisation. So you've got to be able to choose that for your children. I'm allowed to make choices which will make my children better, more functional adults. Bullying does not make functional adults. You know, not all socialisation works.
Exactly, yeah, because, I mean, especially, you often hear that about schools as well. There's a lot of bullying going on in the schools and social media and, like, tragic, to the point of tragedy, like literally taking their own lives. And these are children. This should not be happening. So what are some advice you could give some other families, perhaps, who are struggling with this, even if they are at school or whether they're homeschooling?
I'd say if you're at school, try homeschooling. Just try it.
Yeah.
Try it for 12 months. Probably the one who's going to have to make most changes is the parent. It's not going to be the child. The child is. I found my children pretty pragmatic. If I want to try an experiment, oh, here she goes again. You know, try something new again, and they do. They just do it because this is what adults do. Obviously, adults do strange things, and this is another strange thing that she wants to try with us. And try it. You probably enjoy it a whole lot more than you think. And you just really renew your relationship with your children.
And do you find homeschooling the children, also for those who are probably interested in homeschooling, that it has changed your relationship? Well, you haven't done anything else, but it has built the relationship with your children better than
Oh, I'd say so. I think they know me as well as I know them. I probably didn't really get to know my parents until after I left school. You live in the same house, but we'd go to school. We'd leave the house at maybe 7:30, 8 in the morning. We'd be home at 4:35 at night. You know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been an absolute joy to have you here. You've been watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest was Celia Denny. Hope you enjoyed the program. See you again soon.
I was born with shaver hands. And you were born with a cranium that never stops sprouting hair. It's time that we join forces. Sign up now.
Performance poetry comes your way with Red Lobster every Monday night at 9:30. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Patrick Sibley, who is an educational teacher, secondary and tertiary teacher. He's also done an applied science degree from Melbourne University, and he's an educator in sexuality by master's degree. He's done his master's degree in bioethics. Welcome to the program, Patrick.
Thanks, Mirella.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your studies?
Well, I studied at Melbourne Uni after finishing school and working with my dad as an apprentice on the farm, milking cows.
Oh, wow.
And then I went off to Dookie, campus of Melbourne Uni, and looked at, especially at dairy management there and pastures, and worked with Dad on the farm every summer, mainly driving tractors and grabbing thistles and carting hay, and milking cows. And a few years later, I did a qualification to be a teacher, and then which was just a 1-year course, which meant I didn't know a lot about teaching. And I've done further education in teaching as a result. And I also began studying for a master's degree in bioethics to give me some equipment to understand science in the context of theology and in the world, I suppose, to get a bit of a balanced view of what's happening socially and culturally.
Okay, so how many years would you have studied altogether?
About 7.
7 years. And you have a passion in these areas?
Yeah, very much.
Beautiful. And tell us a little bit about your background, how you grew up.
I grew up on a farm, second of 6 children, 3 little sisters, a brother either side of me. Mum is very working class, down-to-earth lady, the oldest daughter of Italian immigrants, left school at 14. She had a finely tuned, I don't know what to call it, there was no bull dust in our house. She worked in a factory for 7 years and then got married at 21. Gee. Dad was, I think he's about 5th generation Australian, Irish, English background.
Yeah, like mine.
Yeah, and we grew our own vegetables and had fruit trees, and Dad slaughtered the sheep in the backyard, and we just lived off the land very much in our upbringing.
Okay, and then you decided to leave the farm and go off and study, or you went to boarding school for a while?
I got sent to boarding school. Oh, well, I asked to go. I was the only one of the children that went for the last 2 years of school. And then I worked with Dad as an apprentice, milking cows and driving tractors mainly, before I went off to study ag science at Dookie College and campus of Melbourne Uni.
Oh, okay.
And then, a few years later I did the other studies.
Okay, and so tell us today, what would you like to talk about? You were talking about off camera about the Safe Schools program. Could you sort of elaborate on what that is? Because Safe School sounds, when I hear the word Safe School, it sounds like a safe thing, like a happy thing, a safe place to be. But what is your information on this?
My information is that there are many parents who have a genuine concern for their children. The word safe is a very safe word to be using for safe schools. It's a concern of all parents everywhere that their children go to school and be safe, be welcomed, be esteemed, and not to be mistreated. This is just expected. It's implicit in our education system, and historically, it's always been what's expected at school. The Safe Schools program, I want to argue today that it's, ironically, many things that are not safe.
Okay, and so why is the Safe Schools program so unsafe?
I would say that there are elements of it that are not safe because it's founded on what we call gender theory. Now, gender theory is making a distinction between, so telling children that their biological sex is their sex, but their gender is how they feel on any given day. So I would argue that it's a little bit unsafe to be complicating some very basic understandings of children.
Okay.
Psychologically, I'd say it's unsafe.
Right.
Yeah.
And so have they started to, what sort of things have they started to bring into the schools already, or is it something that's going to happen?
It's already brought into schools, into state schools. there's another program that's related to Safe Schools. It's called Building Respectful Relationships, which of course too sounds
like a nice thing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful wording, but also embedded in Building Respectful Relationships is also the same queer theory or gender theory, and it has a certain intention. These programs embedded with this queer theory have, for example, some of the language that I've seen is that we're trying to, just to quote here, encourage students to resist traditional notions of what it is to be a person and how society should operate. So even though it's presented as a anti-bullying program, really what it is, all the evidence is there to say, written into the language of the programs, that this is really a social reconstruction program. The language used there is we want to deconstruct, so break down what they already know. It's effectively to take over the role of parent. That's not written, but that's what it's effectively doing. We deconstruct what they think and know and understand, and we then ask them to reconstruct reality, in effect. So talking to the children about resisting tradition, including how they might see themselves, how they might identify as a sexual being, and including some things in there that I would say are not safe. And I've got a couple of things written down here that I would include in that, and these are some of the things.
We'll just have time for one because we've only got 5 seconds left.
Righto. Telling kids they can change their sex using hormones and sex change surgery. Very problematic.
Oh, absolutely.
Scientifically complicated.
Right, we'll get onto that when we get back. You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
You teach us strangers are dangerous. But someone we know is a much more likely threat. You teach us strangers are dangerous. But who will help when you're not around? Create a world without unnecessary fear. Prepare, don't scare.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage, because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
I can't conquer blood cancer on my own. I need your help. Sign up now.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Morella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Patrick Sibley. Welcome back to the program, Patrick.
Thanks, Morella.
Now, just before the break, you started to tell us something. We were talking about the Safe Schools program, and you mentioned something. I'm not sure what you mentioned. Could you we'll go back into that?
I was just raising a few points in the Safe Schools program, also reflected in the Building Better Relationships, Respectful Relationships, program, which is the
Is that also done by the Safe Schools program?
I don't know if they are immediately aligned,
Right.
but they carry the same flavour. That's all I can gather so far. A couple of things I was saying that I think are a little bit unsafe, that I believe are unsafe in the programs. One of them is saying to boys that they might like to tuck their penises or wear a girl's dress, for example. There's a suggestion in the program that they might want to do that the next day at school to try out what it's like to be of the opposite sex.
Right.
We've also got that girls could bind their breasts if they want to experiment with being a boy for a day.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, they're questionable. Questionable as at least as an educator, I'd say these are questionable. Whether to say these are safe things to be telling little children.
How can they be safe?
Yeah, good question. I'm concerned that the people who want these programs in schools are selling it to the public and with the help of the media for some reason, that we're talking about providing safe environments for children, whereas all the evidence is there to say that this is really a radical social reconstruction program to break down what we might have thought is normal or healthy and safe, and reinvent really our whole civilization in ways.
And you did also a bit of study in your Melbourne University degree in applied science, also in genetics, didn't you?
Just the basics of genetics. Morello, I understand a little bit about genetics, and I'm often amused, or really not amused, annoyed, when I see commentators who know nothing about even the basics of science talking about someone may have come up with a scientific theory, or some tough scientists say it's all just media propaganda about what people are going to find out, which was determined by genetics, or that someone was born that way, or you just have to talk to scientists that do know about people's feelings, which is psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, developmental psychologists. I don't hear anyone quoting them. They're the people that know. They tell us that people's feelings are to do with development and relationship, which makes complete sense. And to go talking to children about complex issues about their body is very questionable, in my understanding anyway.
Sounds like it's kind of obstructing normal natural growth.
It could
to
be
interfering with that.
It could be, but at the same time, we can't negate or reject the fact that people do have many experiences that may not be the norm. They will be attracted, boys will be attracted to other boys, girls will be seeking relationships with other girls, but there's all sorts of proper scientific proof to show that that's nothing to do with genetics, which reminds me of something I'd like to talk about is what Joseph Nicolosi, a man with about 30-something years of experience in psychoanalysis, particularly working with men with same-sex attraction. And he talks about the 4 gay fallacies, which I think are really important. They help with this conversation. And the first gay fallacy is that you're born gay, it's genetic. Now, to say that feelings are genetically heritable is an enormous stretch of the scientific imagination. It's science fiction. Last year I was having a conversation with a German scientist. She's married to her wife, and she's working on the Human Genome Project in the United States. And she told me that they are producing 100 gigabytes of data every day, mapping the human genome. And this is her life's work. And I'm thinking, later I thought, goodness, like what for? 100 gigabytes a day, it's a lot of information to prove what? Like to find out what? And I really think people are looking to discover the meaning of their life, the meaning of their feelings and experiences, and to provide justifications or explanations for how we feel and what we do. And I think from what I've seen and from what I've heard from Nicolosi and other psychologists, it's to do with relationships. The other three gay fallacies that sort of speak into this whole cultural sort of milieu that we're dealing with here, breaking down the human person. Once gay, always gay. You can't change. 10% of the population is gay. That's based on Alfred C. Kinsey's junk science, really, from the 1960s, when it was discovered that 40% of his sample were sex offenders from a prison. And then he had the gumption to come out and say 10% of the population is gay. And the last one is an interesting one of Nicolosi's, which is that the fourth gay fallacy is all homosexuals are gay. Now, I think this is a really important one because he knows, and I know, that there are many, many people who have experienced same-sex attraction who are not one bit interested in the gay agenda. It's the gay agenda which is pushed in the media by a very small but very loud minority who are very powerful in the courts as well. If they want to force you to agree with them, they can drag you through the courts. But not everybody who's experienced same-sex attraction wants anything to do with that culture. And very interestingly, when they changed the marriage laws in the United States, only 9% of the gay couples chose to get married. So it's almost like a part of the media frenzy. But coming back to the genetic side of things, in the Safe Schools program as well, there's that push to say that people are different. And
well, we have to continue with this. We've got to go to a break now. You're watching NAT Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly.
No one knows what to say.
I try and treat him the same as I always have.
He didn't want to give up. He just couldn't.
Caring for Catherine was tough, but when I look back, it was the best thing we ever did together.
It's hard to know how to talk about dying. These people know. If you need to know how, visit lifeanddeath.org.au and join the conversation.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Patrick Sibley. Welcome back to the program, Patrick.
Thanks, Mirella.
Now, tell us, what were you talking before a little bit about? You said something about the complications with encouraging children to reconsider their gender. And you were talking something about earlier on about hormonal things that they're doing, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, changing their sex through surgery and hormones. Very unsafe, very complicated. historically.
Dangerous, physically dangerous.
Yeah, very problematic. Back to the gender theory embedded in the Building Respectful Relationships and Safe Schools program makes a distinction between sexual identity, sexuality, and gender. So your sexual identity, breaking that down to who you're attracted to. Whereas in a simple form, your sexual identity would equate to your biological sex. So it's sort of muddying the waters a little bit between feelings and what your body would, how you would agree with your body. So to say that you were born that way, a little bit not connected with your body, a little bit disjointed from your biological sex, then provides a ground for arguing for a gender reassignment or passing on to the children the message that they can change their sex by surgery and hormones. Now, anybody that knows anything about gender reassignment knows that it's bad medicine. Dr. Paul McHugh, psychiatrist, he was the psychiatrist in chief at Johns Hopkins Hospital in United States for about 25 years. So he put an end to gender reassignment in adults in the 1970s. And the main reason was because his bottom line was you don't fix emotional problems with surgery. You've got to deal with the emotions. Joseph Berger, also another psychiatrist, I think he's Royal College of Surgeons and in Canada, he talks about the impossibilities. It's the impossibility of changing someone's sex. It's not actually possible. So another very clever use of language by people masquerading as protectors and educators of children, which really just have a radical social agenda. Sex change is not possible. Dr. Nick Tontafilippini, the late Dr. Nick, passed away just over 2 years ago now. He explained it to me like this. You mutilate perfectly operational genitals. You maintain a facade of another sex through hormone therapy for the rest of their life. So creating a pretense, imitating somebody of the opposite sex. Joseph Berger used very strong words, saying, "Look, we're talking about if their mind doesn't correspond to reality, then we're talking about psychosis or we're talking about serious disorder. So we need to deal with those things, and they can't be fixed by surgery." Dr. Nick said, "Look, you can change the outside, but the problem, the experience is inside. You can't change people's feelings or..." So to start talking to little children about, they know what their body is. They have natural defences, shame, good shame, I mean, to protect themselves from the boys looking at them, for example, if they're a girl, or their parents tend to teach them things that to sort of give them this complex framework of what sexuality and gender and sexual and identity is, seems to be going in the opposite direction to what safety or common sense, which is what the parents are going to give them, seems to be going against that. And as an educator in sexuality, there are two golden rules. And one of them is you don't introduce to children what they haven't already been introduced to by their first educators, the parents. I'm not their first educator. The parent is their first educator. If I don't serve the parent's role, I'm out of line. The second golden rule of sex education is you don't teach them anything that's titillating, sort of to raise the erotic sort of reaction in the child or the adolescent, which is one of the reasons why the safe sex message is poisonous. There's nothing safe about safe sex. I was talking to a class of nurses and midwives a couple of years back at ACU that I was teaching, and they know it. I mean, I said there's nothing safe about safe sex, and they all laughed. Anyone who knows anything about health and sexuality knows that the safe sex message is abusive, damaging. So how did I go into that? Sorry.
Yeah, no, but what is the safe sex message that they're giving them?
Well, that you apply contraceptives and that a very serious act is going to be safe. Far from safe, but it's a high-risk exercise. Pregnancy could create a new human life. Chlamydia can't be prevented through the use of a condom. 2 in 5 girls in the Northern Territory have chlamydia.
Wow.
It causes infertility. It has no symptoms. You only find out by going to get a test. There's all sorts of reasons why those things are very complicated. But how did I get onto talking about safe sex message, Mirella?
We were talking about what are the complications with encouraging children to reconsider their gender.
Yeah, and sex change surgery, apart from being not possible, it's biologically impossible to change your sex. People who know about this subject tell us that 88% of adolescents who have concerns about their sexual identity, they resolve it by the time they're 18. So taking a 6-year-old aside, and one of the ABC shows that I was watching, taking a 6-year-old aside, having their mother sort of tell them what their life is going to be like, and having that, it was incredible. The father sort of weak, voiceless father sitting back, sort of agreeing with everything the mother, the domineering mother, was saying. And I've seen more examples of this. The poor child thinking, "Oh, I must be a girl." I'd say let the child sort of give them love and affection, kindness, and let them grow into.
Beautiful. All right, thank you so much for coming on the program. Would you like to come back again next week?
Love to.
You've been watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Our guest was Patrick Sibley. See you again soon.
Get active, get social, get on a roll. For more info, visit skateaustralia.org.au.
welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Rosalind Ives, who's a humanist and an editor of several humanist magazines. Thanks for coming back again, Rosalind. When we were speaking last time, we were talking about the role of ethics. Can I just reiterate a general view of what a humanist might be? This is the Humanist Society of Victoria's description, and that is to support diversity, human rights, and the well-being of all humanity using only human capabilities. Now, just setting that as the baseline, and I have your brochure here, which is the description of the Humanist Society of Victoria's activities and belief structure. And there's a list here of ethical values which humanists subscribe to. Can we go through those point by point and fill them out a bit? The first one is to respect for the dignity of every person. Now, where does that take humanists to? What are the sorts of activities which grow out of that respect for humanity?
Well, I guess that flows on to our support for human rights. I mean, we just see all humans as having the same equal rights to lead, hopefully, a reasonable life.
Yes.
I guess that's the basis of it. We certainly don't see a hierarchy of some people being more worthy than others.
So that addresses an issue of basic human rights. And humanism, there's lots of activities in that regard that you're aware of, but I'm talking internationally here.
Actually, there are. The International Humanist body has representation at the United Nations.
Oh, okay, right.
I think it's like non-government status. I think that's how it works. And they speak out for human rights or human rights violation wherever they see it, and that, you know, it's in an area where humanists would be concerned, particularly things like treatment of women, for instance, or I know that's one that they've been quite heavily commenting on.
Well, human rights is a big issue which hits the headlines quite often. So does that imply that the humanism is perhaps a growing group? Do you think there's more humanists than perhaps we at first think?
Well, I think there probably are a lot more humanists without them realising they're humanists. I mean, in a country like Australia, where increasing numbers of people are not identifying with a religion, but they're still trying to lead good lives, probably if you poked them long enough and gave them a few definitions,
few leads, yes.
they might say, oh, I'm a humanist, in the sense that they are leading their life as best they can.
Yes.
Drawing on human experience and knowledge.
Right, right. That touches on perhaps, I think you mentioned in an earlier conversation, that one of your key interests actually is the question as it's posed about religions in the census form. Yes,
well, myself and some others within the humanists have been putting in submissions every 5 years. When there's a census, we get an opportunity to have our 5 pence worth. And what concerns us is that the so-called religion question asks people, what is the person's religion? And that implies that everyone has a religion.
Oh, okay.
And then the choices are, they list actually by name with little tick boxes all the major religions where you can just tick it off, you don't even have to write it in. And then there's the other, meaning other religion. And then underneath that, no religion, which is like a redundant little bit at the bottom.
Yes.
And I'd have to say, going back to my talking about being raised to Church of England, I would have ticked Church of England long after I hadn't been involved, because I'd think, oh, the government just wants to know what I grew up as.
Oh,
and I think a lot of people think like that. In fact, there's a delicious loony cartoon. There's a couple of obvious hippies sitting in a spa tub, one of them with a hooker, and they're filling out the census, and one says to the other, "We're C of E, aren't we?"
Yes, that's a very important question, isn't it? Because it distorts
the data.
Yes, yes.
I mean, we know that actual numbers that go to church is quite small on a regular basis.
Yes.
And we know that very large numbers of people are using civil celebrants for funerals or celebrations of life and marriage in increasing numbers.
Yes.
So that, you know, they're walking away from their where you'd previously had some attachment to religion. But it's not reflected. Incrementally, the religious numbers, the standard Christian religion numbers are going down and the non-Christian religions are sort of going up, but they're still a tiny minority. And the non-religious category is also going up, but only slightly.
Yeah, much of it being buried under the distortion which
the question. And we've been saying, the question should say, does the person have a religion? Yes, no. If so, what is it?
And that then leads to another point that we were discussing once again earlier, is about Australia describing itself as a Christian nation, government officials particularly doing so.
Indeed.
Now, part of the entitlement to do that perhaps arises from the confidence of the census outcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I've even seen religion in Australia in guidebooks quoting that figure. And every journalist or researcher, that's where they go, that data off the census.
Okay.
And that's the key thing. And yet a lot of social research will give you a different answer.
Yes, it's not just an important question for humanism, obviously. It's an important question for the religions themselves in their statistics and their marketing and everything else that goes with it.
It's a big area. We shouldn't discuss it any further.
No, I think we've done enough with that one. Now, the second ethical issue consideration from your brochure is expressions of consideration and empathy towards all persons, but, and this is the key one, other life forms. Now, how does that go? Is that a green statement? What is it?
Yeah, I suppose it is a green statement. The humanists and the early idea of what a humanist was very focused on humans, and animals were not in it, or care for the environment and care for other animals wasn't in the picture. But increasingly, in recent years, humanists have been speaking out and saying, no, we've got to have regard for animals as well. Now, Peter Singer is a good example of that. He's a humanist. He's been a humanist. We have a Humanist of the Year award that we give out each year, and he's been one of our recipients. And when he was accepting the award and we had a dinner for him, he said it would be really nice if we had a vegetarian meal. And we did.
Yes,
but he's just one of a number of humanist writers and speakers who are starting to say, no, we've got to have concern for the environment and other species as well. So that explains that.
Well, thank you for that. And when you have people like Peter Singer behind it, that truly is quite powerful observation.
Indeed.
But we'll go to a break and then come back to these ethical questions, because it's explaining humanism in a very powerful way. Thank you. We'll be back in a moment.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1-800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
Here is some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline, 1300 655 06.
1300 655 06.
It could change your life.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 OzHelp.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Rosalind Ives. Rosalind's a humanist, and she's the editor of several humanist magazines. And we're talking about ethical issues, and I'm taking you through the description of the ethical values of humanism on your brochure here. Third point. Humanists' values endorse settlement of disputes by discussion, negotiation and treaty rather than by violence. Pacifism?
No, it lends itself to that interpretation, but we wouldn't be anti having armed forces, and there may be occasions when you'd want to use that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, punitively locking people up, I'm thinking more of the prison type of thing. We feel that's probably gone over the top.
Right. So settlement of disputes and discussions by negotiation and treaty. Now, where would you go to get the negotiation? Is that something that the humanists would see them being involved in through the United Nations, as you said?
Oh, well, I guess for petty crime and bullying and stuff like that, you ought to be able, you should be able to get the parties together. Is there something called restorative justice?
Mm-hmm.
Is it some method that I think uses that sort of approach?
Yes, it does. And does so locally that operates?
Yeah, yes,
so,
it would work for in a local sense.
So the local humanists, are they active in those areas, like the Humanists Association of Victoria? How is it involved in that? Are there any?
No, we're not overly active. I mean, we would support those ideas, but we're not active beyond being supportive of it.
But it's one of your values.
It's one of our values, yes. I mean, we've heard speakers on it a number of times. And we're fairly strong supporters of the United Nations, weak though it is, for settling international disputes, if they can manage it. I mean, we certainly see there's a role there for something like the United Nations, and we hope that they do a better job, but there you go.
Yes, but exactly. But so that the humanists would, generally speaking, have the view that the human animal will justifiably turn to violence to settle disputes at a certain point. You don't see the human animal as being, when it's violent, being non-human?
No, I don't think we would say that. We'd think it would be an unfortunate turn of events, but we wouldn't want to call it unhuman.
No. So very pragmatic view.
It is a pragmatic view.
Yeah. Okay, point 4. You support or endorse individual freedom balanced by social responsibility. So that sort of gets into a similar sort of area, doesn't it?
We see that as a very core sort of value. I mean, we see people should be able to make their own decisions. I guess we're talking about adults, not so much children. But there's a reciprocal responsibility to the other people that you interact with, the people in your family, your friends, the people you work with.
Yes.
And we see that as, a really key thing.
So it's not freedom for freedom's sake. It needs to be in social context.
In social context. I mean, we are social animals, and we have to live as social animals in society, and you have to work out ways to get on. And so there's a big lot of responsibilities for what freedoms you claim.
Now, you use the term social animals. Could you explain that a bit further, realising that some people would rail at us being called animals at all?
Well, I guess this is, as far as we would be concerned, we have evolved like other animals. We are animals, come on. we're just the only representative of our species. But not that many years ago, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, there were a whole series of human species. And for different reasons, which we're not sure exactly why, the other human species have died out.
Yes.
And we're the only one left. And that makes the gap between us and what we're related to look bigger than it probably really should do.
So
but we do have some additional capabilities
yes.
that seem to lift us away from the animals.
So that would be a general humanist perspective. There's a lot of rationalism in that too, isn't there? That's a sort of almost a rationalist perspective, to see that evolutionary context for the human.
Well, I think rationalists would definitely think the same way, but are you doubting this? That we didn't evolve?
I'm not. I'm neutral. I'm the interviewer.
I see.
I'm
you
not,
don't have
I'm not
views.
doubting it. I just want to examine it just from the context, the illumination of humanist belief structure. That's all. Without nailing it.
The basis of our ethics, if you
ethics, I can't relate ethics to time, but we're out of time.
Oh, right.
So we'll be back in a moment. We'll be back shortly.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able.
To every child's development, an important message from the Australian Toy Association.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Rosalind Ives, and she's a humanist, an editor of several humanist publications. We're still running through those ethical principles. We have the last one coming up now, which is actually a really important one, in my view at least, is that you endorse values in relation to rearing children to be honest, fair and kind in their dealings with others. What does this humanist, or what do the humanists do as sort of a collective activity there? Do you have processes of education, or do you offer programs, go into schools?
Well, we'll go and speak in schools if someone asks for someone to speak on humanism, but we don't we get more invitations from the U3A than schools. But what do we do? Not a lot with children, although there's a bit of activity at the moment of trying to put together an ethics course as an alternative to special religious instruction.
And yes, I'm familiar with that. How far has that been progressed?
It's not very far. It's pushing towards a trial to see if there's a need for it and it will work. And so it's very much in the planning at the moment.
Have you got any idea what the response from schools and educators are in relation to it?
Well, I'm not involved in that program that much, but I was told the other day that there's been quite favourable response from some schools and some parents. So there's clearly an interest out there. So how far it goes, I guess time will tell.
Well, it's very topical at the moment, of course, isn't it? Because there's that issue with that pamphlet or brochure that was handed out at schools.
Yes, I think there is a reasonable concern, I think, from parents of what has been handed out in some schools, as we've heard reported.
And of course that goes back to the census question, because the belief is that there's more of particular religions than perhaps there are. So offering the religious answer doesn't fulfil the needs of some parents.
No, well, what's happened in recent years, it's a whole complicated story, but the schools used to say to parents, do you want your child to have special religious instruction? And if the parents don't say anything, the child goes into the class anyhow.
Okay.
And then recently, just in the last couple of years, the parent must say they're to go into the class. They can't just get scooped in. And the numbers have dropped off enormously, apparently, now that there's a requirement that the parent positively says we want it.
It's a matter of discernment, isn't it? That's quite interesting. And talking about discernment, and this is a very interesting little brochure you have here, but I've turned over to Australian Humanists of the Year. How long has that been going?
If I'm remembering off the top of my head, I think it began in 1983.
1983, yep.
And the first Humanist of the Year was Lionel Murphy, who was, in 83, he was probably a High Court judge.
He would have been that.
I think so.
Well, I've got the list here of, and as you mentioned before, Peter Singer and Philip Adams, just to pick some of them out, Bob Brown, Julian Burnside. These would be all names that people would recognise quickly. Gareth Evans as a legislator, Tim Flannery as a biologist, Fred Hollows as a health reformer. So it goes on, and as you say, Philip Nitsky, a medical reformer. So those people, and I think that informs what humanism is supportive of, is that list of people there. Would that imply that they are members of the Humanist Society, or they just
not necessarily? We have a voting process where we ask for nominations across Australia, and then we vote for those nominations for that particular year, and somebody's chosen, and then we go to that person and say, this is what's happened, are you prepared to accept the award of Australian Humanist of the Year? And usually, well, actually, in all but one case, they've said yes, thank goodness. And we're not requiring them to join, but just identify as a humanist. Now, some of them are members, but not all of them are. So
but they don't object to being
identified
as having humanist principles.
No. Well, they are. We send them material about what a humanist is in case they don't know, and they are willing to identify as a humanist.
Right.
And
that's a fascinating sweep of people there.
It is an interesting mix. Yes.
Now, talking about interesting mixes, looking at your magazine, the Australian Humanist, I noticed an article in there called entitled "Adopt a Dalit Village." Can you give me a bit of an idea of what that is? Explain what a Dalit is first.
Right.
And then,
well, a Dalit is an untouchable in India. And I don't even think they're in the caste system. I think they're classed as outside the caste system.
That's correct.
And they actually, in India now, their constitution does give them equal rights, but that doesn't mean to say it translates into the way things function in the villages where many of them live.
No.
And the Adopt a Dalit Village program was organised by the International Humanist Group, because we have quite a strong number of humanist members and humanist organisation members, member organisations in India. And they are the ones who do the hands-on in the villages. And the villages aren't Dalit villages. There are villages with Dalits in them.
Yes,
there's a segment of the population are Dalits. And the idea is that we, in a country with money, provide some money to pay for people to go into those villages and give them information about witchcraft's a bit, tell them about their human rights, tell them about how science works, to try and give them some health services and bits of education.
And tell them how time works. It's worked against us. We've come to the end. Rosalind, thank you so much for a very illuminating insight into humanism. And thank you for giving your time.
My pleasure, Norm.
We'll be back next week with another interview. And thank you so much for watching.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to order some pathology tests to see how everything's going.
Half the Australian population had a pathology test last year. That's you or someone you love. 100 tests are performed every minute, delivering vital medical information. From the moment you are born, your healthcare depends on pathology tests. 70% of medical decisions rely on information from pathology tests. Pathology is the engine room of healthcare. One small sample can reveal millions of insights all about you. Pathologists are your doctor's doctor. 25,000 people work to provide doctors with the answers they need to treat you. Australian pathology is world class. We may never meet you, but we see each of you as part of our family. Every minute, 23 Australians find out more about their health.
Good news, Sarah, the results show that everything's okay.
Pathology provides peace of mind.
I rely on Australian pathology.
Sign up online to support Australian pathology.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
The following program carries an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you here, and I'd like to give thanks to Rafaela Torreson, who is an amazing organiser of events such as this, I don't know whether you came along last week, but she has had a great opening of... She has all these themes. Every 6 months or a year she has a theme. And it's either she does all the paintings or she gets a whole bunch of old friends to do paintings. And Raf has friends coming out of the wazoo or the woodwork. The theme tonight is more is never enough. And we've got some fantastic readers tonight. This is one of the best lists of poets you could see in Melbourne. I'm going to try and keep it moving. I want anyone who's reading to be bloody quick for me, all right? I don't want to hear your epic about capitalism. I just want your quirky, weirdo piece. So let's get going. Who's going to start? Putting my other hat on and trying to be upside, because I thought everyone's going to be all kind of maundering about greed. I've read Komnenos's piece, and he, in his practical Greek way, doesn't just put it, you know, he complains, but he doesn't just put it down. He knows the value of a house. I don't, but I'm in sympathy with him, so I'm going to give you my greed, let's look at the upside poem before we get stuck into the gloomy stuff, all right? So, greed, let's look at the upside. I want a holiday house. I want a Bentley. I want to fly to Europe first class. I want to drink Johnny Walker Black. I want to eat the whole tub of ice cream. I want to speak 7 languages and have dinner with Nelson Mandela. I want to collect giraffes, gems, rare books. I want a private beach. I want to fly to Tokyo because Yoko Ono's tarot said so. I want to ring up the president of Russia because the beluga caviar didn't arrive. Hey, Vlad, it was 100 kilos of the best. I want a forest with 1,100 species of tree. I want to see my herd of white horses gallop down the drive and disappear around the bend. I don't want to live on the flat ideological plains of Melbourne and condemn other people I haven't even met. I want to live in the 80s in Sydney, overlooking Rushcutters Bay, and make love to Kate Fitzpatrick. I want to own 2 dwarfs who bring me cocaine on a tray and roast suckling pig. And I look up with smeary lips and Elton John arrives at the party and says, I like your poetry, man, I really do. I'm getting rid of Bernie Taupin. And for Christ's sakes, let's write a better song than Candle in the Wind. So, I'm greedy. What about you? That's it.
This is called Science Teachers. I'm living now in this town, this old, cold junk town, where science teachers, jazz lovers and the mentally ill travel the 86 tram. I'm swamped with a smell of fear and confusion and unwashed bodies rocking beside me to the rhythm and the thrill, while the burnt-out shell of the asylum stands solemnly on the hill. No absolution for the culpable or those to blame. Impale them all on the spike of responsibility and give shelter back to our insane.
No man is an island. Someone said that. I don't know who said that. King Kong got it wrong. No man is a Manhattan. That ain't no monkey on my back. It's a gorilla. That insidious old ape still crouches on my shoulder. He's perched up there like Goya's grinning ghoul. He just climbed up my skyscraper spine. You can still see the marks he made. He razed my city to the ground and stole my loved one with his gnarled hand. He's too big and heavy to stay up there for long. One good biplane to the back of the head and he'll fall 1,000 stories and crush everything. Then I'll be rid of him. Until the next organ grinder comes to town and his simian sidekick casts his dark shadow down my long hall, whispering, every man is a Manhattan.
Addy, 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 addy. 3 for $2. Lovely, lovely, lovely 99. Too fat, too fat, too fayana. Too fat, too fat, too fayana. Yes, please, yes, please. Dollar, dollar, 2 for $1. Dollar, 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 dollar. Dollar, 2 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 1. Dale, 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 dale. Desiree, Desiree. Quick now, Desiree. Dala, 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 dala. Too fat, too fanyana. Dala, 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 dala.
Backyard peach tree sutra. I go out the back. The possums are waiting high up in the peach tree against the bright night sky. There is no wisdom, there is no attainment, I say to them. They come down. One of them chases the other back to the top of the tree and comes down again. There is no wisdom, there is no attainment whatsoever, I say to it. It comes closer. It is looking for some bread. I give it a piece of crust. It runs back up into the tree. I call the other one down and give it a piece of crust. It sits there eating it, looking around anxiously, eating quickly.
Little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. I can't wait to hear you sing or watch as you put on a wedding ring. One day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets. And they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Word peace. He said he fell in love with words, though he admits the words had no say in this. He went to live in the town called Words, where he worked in an alphabet factory and married not his favourite word, but one that would accept his proposal. She disapproved of American spelling and Jane Austen. Not enough, she said, happens in her paragraphs, her endless paragraphs. Come on, Jane, get on with it. But he didn't mind, for even though the alphabet is limited, and even though the shapes of sounds from lips are merely human, the possible inventions and combinations of words are infinite, or would be infinite if the town called Words survives that long, or long enough to point convincingly to the idea of infinity, with some hope of being understood. His marriage to this word, no more nor less mysterious than most, was a tolerable grammatical arrangement. He hoped, though, to be entombed at last within a perfect word, a word as yet unnamed and unimagined, a word with no need to be spoken. He hoped to be buried at last within its silence, held in the darkness of its open mouth.
I had to struggle a bit to find a couple of poems about greed, and I found two, and one of them I must precede. I found out again recently when Charlie Chaplin was at the peak of his career, he entered in Monte Carlo a Charlie Chaplin look-alike show and came in third. True story. It is. L.A. Crush. Malibu. He sells his last guitar for more powder, sits stoned and alone in the filthy park, listening to the demo tape no one else will ever hear. Compton. Sometimes she still recalls that dream of stepping from the bus onto a stage shaking with applause. Instead, the locked drawer waits in her stuffy, unkempt room. Bel Air. After the divorce lawyer leaves, the producer finds that both barrels fit in his mouth after all. Long Beach. As she clears tables, she wonders again if the Hollywood sign is high enough that you'd die if you jumped from it. The Valley. Finished, he lifts his head from another stranger's lap and reaches for the mouthwash, older by centuries, too far for too long now, from Utah, from Kansas, from Nebraska.
I shan't be doing the epics considering everyone else is doing the less is more. But I used to work in the public service for 10 years and ended up in the state tax. A few issues around tax gathering in certain forms. So I'm going to read this pantoum called Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. I know who put it in my pigeonhole. I feel like the greyhound chasing the hare. Put what? The Get Help leaflet, that's what. Around and around the racetrack, I feel like the greyhound chasing the hare, spiralling like a coil in a fob watch. Around and around the racetrack, life is a cog on the outer rim, spiralling like a coil in a fob watch. I'm the ever-winding gyre exploding. Life is a cog on the outer rim. After all, she's only a school psychologist. I'm the ever-winding gyre exploding. What would she know about anything really? After all, she's only a school psychologist. I was supporting my footy social club. What would she know about anything really? Our whole family barracks for Hawthorn. I was supporting my footy social club. The money goes to a good cause. Our whole family barracks for Hawthorn. Geelong did themselves in going for the man. The money goes to a good cause. I don't begrudge Geelong their current flag. Geelong did themselves in going for the man. My sons are at footy training tonight. I don't begrudge Geelong their current flag. I've downsized the house to a unit. My sons are at footy training tonight. Surely I'm entitled to a social life. I've downsized the house to a unit. I was in a bit of financial bother. Surely I'm entitled to a social life. I was in a bit of a tight spot. I was in a bit of financial bother, but I'm winning now. It's all psychology. I was in a bit of a tight spot, but I got 3 large jackpots in a row. I'm winning now. It's all psychology. The woman beside me got nasty. I got 3 large jackpots in a row. The woman beside me was just plain jealous. Stuff the gambler's health leaflets, that's what. And I know who put them in my pigeonhole.
Across the sea. This is my greed poem. You have to work out why. The sea comes across itself. Here it comes across itself. See it coming. It comes and comes across itself. It keeps coming. It never stops. Here it comes. See it coming across itself. It comes and comes over and over. It keeps coming across itself over and over. See it coming. Here it comes. Look at it coming. It never stops. It keeps coming. Look at it coming over and over across itself. See it coming over and over, forever and ever. Look at it coming over and over across itself. It keeps on coming. It never stops. See it coming across itself over and over. It never stops. It keeps coming over and over, forever and ever. It never stops. It never stops. Look at it. It never stops.
This season, we need your help to control Queensland fruit fly in our region. Your infested fruit is destroying your neighbour's harvest and the livelihood of our orchardists and their families. Pick up and dispose of fallen fruit. Infected fruit in your backyard is a breeding ground for fruit fly. Monitor fruit fly numbers by hanging traps in your fruit trees. Traps can be purchased at your local hardware stores. Net your fruit trees and susceptible vegetables with fruit fly specific netting. Contact us for information.
I got my big break about 5 years ago.
My big break came 10 years ago.
I got my break about 8 years ago.
If you're over 50 and have recently had a bone fracture from a minor bump or fall, you may have osteoporosis.
If you've had one break from osteoporosis, there's a good chance you'll have another.
Find out more, talk to your doctor, or call Osteoporosis Australia today.
Don't wait for your next big break.
Fabulous minutes every week. Meet the famous, the fortunate and the fashionable as Steve and Jacqueline take you to all the events around town. Not to be missed, it's the most fabulous 15 minutes you'll ever see.
This one's based on a painting by Caravaggio, The 7 Acts of Mercy. Bury the dead. Clothe the naked. Help the sick and infirm. Feed the hungry. Quench the thirsty. Offer shelter to the pilgrim. Visit the imprisoned. The 7 acts of mercy. Bury that noble notion. Clothe your ambition. Help yourself. Visit hospitals for amusement. Feed your desires. Quench all lusts. Offer 20% interest to all. The 7 acts of procurement.
In the hustle and bustle of ball and muscle and tit and clit and prick and lick, in the suck and fuck and pubic gyruvic, in the grovel and grope of want and hope, in the grasping and clasping and deep tongue rasping, in the heat of the sheets and the gymnastic elastic, in the grunting and cunting and huffing and puffing, and stroking and poking and hissing and kissing, and rocking and mocking and seducing, deducing and using and icing, and we sing the oozing, in the cocking, leg locking of jockstrap and stocking, and rising and falling and chewing and throwing and tooing, in the bristling, tingling and whistles and jingling, in the howling, the growling, the groaning, the moaning, in the eyes of desire. I see fire, I see fire, I see fire, and I see love.
Bless us, O Lord, for these are thy gifts, which we are about to receive via the swift, sharp edge of our sword.
This is for a New Zealand poet called David Mitchell, who's now moored in Sydney. You probably don't know him, but he's just had his Collected come out from Auckland University Press. And he's someone I ran across many years ago. Against the Silences to Come, for David Mitchell. She is holding the faded blue chapbook in her hand, looking at herself. She has carried it across the sea and back again, across the sea and back again, and she didn't know why until now. The return of the ampersand. Poets used ampersands back then. He did. And so did Ron Lowenson, who wrote Against the Silences to Come. Copyright 1965, Four Seasons Foundation, distributed by City Lights Books, for Joan. There is news of him. There is news to hand. News has come in. There is news of the poet who gave her Against the Silences to Come. In the kitchen of his flat. In, as the taxi driver quipped, Sentimental Road, where he gave birth to a typewriter while the refrigerator was making cold. His surname is written on the buffer page and the ancient price, and below, her name. He is moored in a nursing home in Sydney, incapable of speech, silent. His hand speaks for him on the page. She finds she is not sorry for him, has no pity. She finds, in fact, she has been furious with him from since then until now, since he picked her up and dropped her, all in one night. He is sitting in the Babel Cafe, waiting for his wife and daughter to dock tomorrow on the waterfront. He has bought a painting for his daughter's room. It's mostly pink. Now, she supposes that he was drunk, that habitual drunkenness that comes across like charm up to a certain point. Tomorrow doesn't count. From tomorrow he would not, but tonight, once more for luck. She supposes that she supposed that she was safe because I write poetry too. and yet the gift. I find on the last page of his famous book, Silences to Come, I find a grief, a small grief, like a sharp stone in my smart shoe, for him.
Stone Cutter, Day 12. I stop circling the cold block of marble and step up to it without tools. Not far away, a waiting room lacks passengers, announcements. In the quietness of night, the marble's veins resemble tracks heading off in every direction. Day 22. The days lengthen, allowing more light in. Sunstorms, the platform, the stone closing in on itself. Day 45. Marble dust airborne as a fresh mathematics comes into play. An algebra of hammering and the swift rigors of trigonometry, sine, cosine, tangent. Day 60. The block reducing, a night train's distant whistle. Day 83. I step into what is left of the stone, rubbled pebbles lying mutely at my feet. Day 97. There is almost nothing left to carve. I am surrounded by gravel, by the passing of marble. Beyond the warehouse, trains are waiting. My sculpture at its finish will be air. And what the block meant when I started, what it has become, and how, dusty and unkempt, I will finally be even with myself, still holding invisible chisels, axes, small carving knives, these strange and beautiful new tools of my future.
Multi-faith and interfaith is all part of harmony in diversity. Every Monday night at 9. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
G'day, we're at the Melbourne Motor Show. More cars than any bloke would dream of. it's not only just about cars, but it's about lifestyle. It's about getting the gear, the Ford, the Ford Polo tops, the Ford T-shirts. You've got every brand, every name, every product. So not only do you have to drive the car, you have to wear the car, you have to feel the car. It's all about that here at the car show. Can you check the oil for me?
Check the oil for you?
Yeah, you can check the oil for
If I
me?
could get into the boot, I would.
How do you get in the boot?
We're trying to do it.
Pop the boot open. It won't open.
You need a key.
Oh, bloody good car this is. You need a key
Well,
to
when it's
open the boot.
working, you can open it.
Oh, start the car.
We're just trying to find the key.
You've lost the key.
You've lost the key.
You're at a car show and you've lost the
Yeah,
key.
we're just getting it though, it's alright.
You can't open. Oh.
Can I open it?
We're never going to see the motor. What's so good about the motor?
Well, the idea of this car is, you don't want to see the motor. No,
You don't
just
want
kidding.
to. Well, it's under wraps. It's all hush hush, not released. Isn't that right?
It is true, yeah. We're trying to keep it a secret, so we're locking you all out.
What's so good about a Ford?
Well, what isn't good about a Ford?
Well, they are affordable. Get it? Affordable.
Look good, run good, reliable, all the rest.
All the rest?
Yeah. Better than Holden by a mile.
Oh, really?
Better looking people wandering around giving information out.
Oh, then Holden. We'll have to go see Holden, give them a run for their money and see what they say. I'm decked out in the colours here. I was over at the Ford stand, and you know what they said? Your cars are shit.
That's what they have to say that, really, because we're market leader. We're absolutely.
Are you better than them? Really?
Well, the Australian public have said it, so they've voted with their wallets and their feet. So I think.
What is that rivalry between Ford and Holden? What's the deal?
Well, the deal is, I suppose, it's the two Australian car manufacturers that are serious about catering to the Australian market, and we do probably the best job of it.
Oh yeah, football, meat pies, gold cars, and Holden cars.
And people trust Holden.
And people trust Holden. Now, Holden's been in Australia for how long?
Well, the first Holden rolled off the line in 1948.
1948.
So we've had Holdens ever since then.
Australian, true Australian?
Absolutely.
Do you export elsewhere, outside
we sure
Australia?
Do. We export to the Middle East and also to South America.
They drive Holdens down there?
You betcha.
Oh, we're not that exclusive anymore then.
No, that's it.
No?
It all starts here. It's a good news story.
Price point. Cheapest Holden.
Cheapest Holden, I suppose, would be our Barina.
Driving too hard. That's it. You're not even old enough to drive yet, are you?
I'm old enough to drive.
How old are you?
17.
Yeah, well, you haven't even got yells yet, have you?
I've got
You have?
That's right.
You can't drive very good, according to this. You're going
we're not even racing yet.
I know, but you're going upside down before.
Yeah, well, you try driving with the steering wheel. It's like
Oh, okay. It's all a part of the skill here.
Oh, let's go.
Oh, they're off. He's thrashing you. Bit of a dirt road. We need to do a simulator. There's a lot of little display going on. You just stand here and listen to them talk about the car. It's really interesting, isn't it? What have you learned about the car?
Oh, lots.
Lots.
Yes.
Absolutely nothing, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Right?
That is not going to be launched until August.
Oh, really? So what car are you looking for?
I work for Volkswagen.
Oh, so what car do you drive?
A Golf.
A Golf?
Yes.
Ooh, thank God for that. Because most people who work for the companies don't actually drive the car of the company. Do they give it to you?
No, I lease mine because I'm not a manager. Managers get their cars, I lease mine.
So what's good about the V-Dub then?
Oh, come on, look at it.
Yeah, well,
pretty slick car.
it is slick.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Kept the traditional shape there.
Yeah.
What else?
It's very reliable.
Is
You
it?
feel very safe. Yes. Very
So it'll
good.
get you home when you're really pissed, basically. Is it that reliable? You just get in and say, hey, drive me home?
I wouldn't drive if I was drunk.
Me and my sister got to put a car together.
Really? You got to make a car?
No, I put the wheel and she put something else on.
So you're into your cars too, are you?
No. Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, I think we're going to have a family of
Certificate, and we got a certificate.
fabulous. You're going to be, I can just see you now. What kind of car are you going to have? A fast, loud one, right?
Commodore. No.
Commodore?
No.
Go up to me. And what's the car you want? Apart from, what's the car you've got now?
Mitsubishi Pajero.
And how do you find that?
Wonderful.
And with the kids and everything?
Perfect.
You got what, 3?
3.
And fits okay?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe you're in the market. What do you want?
I want a Lamborghini, or I want Lamborghini too. or I want a bullet, or I want a new Pajero, or I want a
You don't want much, do you?
beetle. When I get older, I'm going to get an on-road motorbike and an off-road and a four-wheeler.
An on-road and an off-road. What's the difference? You don't know, do you?
Yeah. When I get to go on off-road, do burnouts on dirt roads, and when I get to drive on the road.
So why do you want to do burnouts? You're a hoon, aren't you? You're a petrol head already at your age. You're a petrol head. He wants to do burnouts at your age.
I just want to drive it around like a normal car.
Like a normal car. What's a normal car?
A car that goes vroom vroom on the road.
Or zoom zoom?
Yeah.
Well, we'll go zoom zooming. Zoom zoom. What's the zoom zoom thing?
What zoom zoom is a philosophy that's come up with the Mazda campaign, advertising campaign.
It's effective.
It's very, very effective. What it does is it takes people back to like when they were younger and they were in their billy carts and things like that. And it's a zoom zoom. It's a very youthful feeling and it's very performance orientated, the whole thing.
Now you've got the tribute here. Yes. What are you tributing to?
Okay, the Tribute basically is a full-time four-wheel drive. It's available in 3 different model levels.
What do you mean full-time four-wheel drive?
What that means is
city driving.
City driving as well. It actually drives through all four wheels, so you don't have to go off the road to have it driving in four-wheel drive.
Does anyone who really owns a four-wheel drive out in the country?
Probably 90% of vehicles sold wouldn't leave the bitumen.
No.
But
so how would they know whether you made it for the bush or not? You could say it's four-wheel drive and you know they're going to stay in the city.
Okay, it has four-wheel drive capability. What I mean is if you're going up to Alice Springs or somewhere like that, doing very serious four-wheel driving, you're probably going to want something with a bit more substance. But the average person wants to do a little bit of camping, fishing, surfing, anything like that.
And a bit of zoom zooming.
Certainly a perfect vehicle.
Here we go. How you going?
Good, mate.
Can you take me to a corner of Chapel and High, please?
Not a problem.
Chapel and High. So what brings you here?
The cars and the women.
There's no women here. It's a blokes thing.
What do you mean? All the girls that the Mazda girls, the
those kind of girls, the host girls.
The host girls.
Because
the reason why we come here.
This ain't a chick place, believe me. All you girls out there, this is a place you should go if you want to hunt a man.
That's right.
So what, are you actually looking for cars or just chicks?
It's a chick thing.
That is a chick.
We're coming for the chicks.
Is a car like a chick?
A car is a chick magnet.
Oh, okay.
So,
what do you drive then?
I'm a bike rider.
A car is a penis extension.
It is not.
It is.
I think a motorcycle is a penis extension.
Okay, what's your ideal car?
Something convertible.
Yeah.
Something fast. This isn't too bad because it's a turbo.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's got a bit of power behind the. It's not all.
Well, were you going to put like extractors on the back and stuff?
Like what I want to do is just lower it and put like 18-inch wheels and stuff.
Yeah,
and put
like
a couple of stuff.
And we need some fluffy Dyson stuff.
No, they come standard.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And like, do we like play doof doof like down Chapel Street and stuff?
Because we're going to have to change the stereo for that.
Yeah, like we will need really big speakers.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can
What's
ask
living it loud?
It's living it loud, man. What it says is what it is.
Okay, what do you do?
Everything's. What do you do?
Nothing.
Nothing. You know how they say cars are chick magnets?
Yeah.
There's not one chick looking at this car. I think you guys got it wrong.
Probably.
Isn't it?
Probably.
What do you like about this one? Yellow.
All of it.
All of it.
It's all good.
You can only dream, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with dreaming. And what do you drive at the moment?
Just a shitty old Ford.
Shitty old Ford?
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be happy about that.
Oh.
And is that a chick magnet?
No.
No. So you're not pulling then?
No.
No. You think you'd get something in that?
Yeah, pulling.
Yeah, I bet.
gee, I tell you what, you wouldn't want to spill anything on these seats. Look how white that is. Look at the steering wheel. There's Audis, there's V-Dubs, there's Toyotas, there's Lexuses, there's everything. Found the Pergo girls. More like nurses. What's with the uniform?
Yeah.
You are sexy. Yeah, I like it.
Thank you, thank you.
So you getting picked up here or what?
No, not really. No.
Why not?
I'm not sure.
Can we take one of the cars for a spin and stuff?
You can if you write down your name and information. And we
Oh, really?
Yeah, we can take you for a test drive.
How about we do a bit of a backseat test drive?
I don't think that'd be appropriate.
Why not? Come on, you and me. Come on.
Everything you lose, am I the only one that you didn't choose?
Okay, after you, in the back seat. Anyway, see you later. I'm going to have some fun now. I've got her in the back seat. I'm halfway there. She was great. Oh my God, I'm going back for seconds. I'll see you after the break.
Toyota.
What's new in Toyota?
Everything's new in Toyota.
Oh yeah, tell me, go on.
New cars, new people.
New people?
New everything.
How do you get new people for a new car?
Well, you go for a different market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you got your Corolla.
Corolla. Now, this is the name of a name, really, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
What's so good about the Corolla?
Because it's the best in its range.
In its range?
Yep.
What's so good about it?
It's got a new 100 kilowatt engine with a 1.8 litre.
Okay, so it's going to go further?
It's going to go much further.
Price point?
Oh, it depends what you're looking at. For you, I'd say about 100 grand.
100 grand?
No, I'm just joking. About 30 grand they start off at.
30? Oh, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it is reasonable.
So, who's a Corolla driver?
Anyone's a Corolla driver.
Anyone?
Anyone and everyone.
But don't you target at a certain sort of...
Well, that one there is targeted at the more sporty, say, younger generation.
Okay.
And then we've got ones like the Ultima, which is top of range, which is more of a upper class sort of thing, so the older generation.
Oh, upper class. We like upper class. Now, what's your most expensive Toyota?
Our most expensive Toyota? Well, that would probably have to be the Land Cruiser, top of the range Land Cruiser.
Top of the range. That's the one I want.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, we want a Land Cruiser. Can you sell me a Land Cruiser?
I can sell you whatever you like.
Can you give me a Land Cruiser?
I can't give it to you, but I can sell you a Land Cruiser.
There's no point in him. What am I doing at the car show if I can't even get a car? What's going on here?
Because it's exciting.
Have you been in the Grand Prix?
Have I been?
Yeah.
No.
Are you going?
I've been racing for 4 years now, so...
What do you do?
I'm joking.
Oh, all right. Now I know how a 4-year-old feels. Okay, we're gonna... Ready?
We should warm up.
Well, okay, warm up.
Just in case.
Gonna warm up.
Okay.
Always warm up before you do a race.
Otherwise
before you
pull
jump.
Pull a muscle and it's
Yeah.
dry.
Okay.
Ready? Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Oh, what a feeling! Okay, you got a good set of wheels here.
Not off-road though.
Not off-road.
No.
Do you want an on-road pair of wheels? A real good set of wheels?
I've got some at home.
You got some?
Yeah.
Can you put mags on these and things like that?
No.
No, you can't lower it down and do the...
No.
So do you drive?
Yes.
So how... Well, obviously you can't use pedals.
Yes, I can.
You can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I drive an automatic.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So easy to do?
Yep. Yeah.
And do you find, obviously, being in a wheelchair, you have to get into the car. Is that a hard thing? So you have to choose wisely when choosing your car?
Absolutely.
So what do you choose? What cars are easy?
Well, I'm mainly in the market for a four-wheel drive.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a... You need a ladder.
Depending on what vehicle.
Yeah.
Yes. So you look at different practicalities.
Yeah.
And you look at sort of what the vehicle's got compared to the others. Yes.
Do you think cars are made for people that, obviously in your condition, they're not... No? Not friendly at all in that way?
The only, if I was in the market, say, for a sedan, for example, I had a look, the Ford is better because they're down lower.
Okay.
And the doors open wider. That's what you can look at, like for easy access to get into the vehicle.
So once you're in the car,
Yes.
what do you do with your wheelchair? How do you fold that up?
No, I just pop the wheels off. And
While you're sitting in there and stick it in the passenger seat?
But I can get out and walk, so a little
okay.
bit. So I just lift it up and throw it in the back.
You're lucky.
I am, very fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate.
Yes.
In an unfortunate way, you're fortunate.
Yes.
Well, thanks, and I guess you'll drive off.
I'll push off, yes.
Yeah, he'll push off.
Camera, download them on your PC and send them via email to all your friends. And to complete the environmental theme of the vehicle, the SUP comes with a hybrid engine. The engine is connected to an advanced all-wheel drive system.
That's the SUP Sports Utility Pack. It's a car that's not really on the market, but an idea.
It's just a concept car.
So what is the concept?
Well, the concept behind it is that it provides urban technology with great lifestyle enjoyment for you. So you can use it in a city environment, but also take it off the road because it's completely four-wheel drive.
And you've got little things you can attach on the outside, little suitcases?
Yeah, what that actually is semi-transparent panelling along the doors, the suitcases that are completely removable, so you can store whatever you like in them. They're completely lockable and secure. And of course, they've got the two colour combinations, which means you can alternate the colour for a different look on your car whenever you choose.
Now, also, you've got something you can have a shower as well?
Yeah, the idea being if you've been out and about at the beach or you're hot after a hard day's hike, simply pull out the shower, which is attached to a water tank, rinse yourself down, and then you can jump in the SUP and go.
Now, who invented these things?
I don't know. I'd like to meet the person.
Someone's got far too much money, because it's roughly, what, $2 million?
To create,
create.
The concept vehicles are always a lot more expensive to create because,
Prototype, one off.
That's right.
Do you think something like this will ever get on the world market?
I think you might see a couple of the features coming out down the track. I think the scooters are a hit with the younger crowd, but whether or not the oldies see it that way too.
The SUP seats are also waterproof, so you can wash off in the built-in shower.
You like a petrol head?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit of a petrol head?
Just a touch.
Just
yeah.
a bit?
Yeah.
What do you like the most, the engine or the car?
The car, not as much as the engine though, yeah. Engine.
Why? You get in the engine every now and then, have a tinkle?
I love to have a fiddle, yeah.
Yeah?
For sure.
You like my brother who used to pull his engine apart and put it back together and there'd always be bits left over?
Yeah, try and put it back together, that's it, yeah.
And you don't know where the bits are for? Honestly. Well, I'm going to say, he keeps on doing it and then one day he's going to just have all bits more than motor. I just don't get it. So what's your favourite car?
I love the Mazdas.
The Mazdas?
Yeah.
Why the Mazdas?
The Rotaries.
Are you the guy that goes down Chapel Street on a Saturday night with the doof music in the back? It's you, isn't it?
It's definitely not
It's
me.
sure it's you. You got dice on your little mirror there?
Fluffy dice, sorry.
What do you got then?
You
got the crown, haven't you? That gold crown at the back.
No, not quite.
No?
No.
You lying to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I knew it. I knew it. Yeah, after the big four wheels.
Beg pardon?
The big four-wheel drive.
Yeah. No, we got one.
You got one?
We just got one.
What do you got?
Toyota.
So what, are you looking at doing something else now?
We're just checking it out.
Yeah?
Yeah, just.
Are you not happy with your Toyota?
It's okay.
We just bought it.
You just bought it and you're here at the motor show?
Yeah, but we thought we'd have a look for something.
You're ready
else.
for your next car already?
Yeah.
So how's the one you got now?
Good.
Quite good, yeah.
Do you find, you intimidate the smaller car up in the big,
That was the idea of it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you look down on everybody?
Yeah, he likes that.
Yeah?
That's why I like going up in that big building in Melbourne looking down on people.
Oh, you like looking down on people? These are the kind of drivers you get to the lights and they look down.
You've got a nice big bull bar on it. You can sort of push them around a bit.
It's nice and big, isn't
Is
it?
that what
It's
it's about, being big car and intimidating all the other cars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
sharpened up the edges of the bull bar, so it sort of slid them a bit.
But even if it's...
8 seat, is it?
That's huge.
7
seats. Have you got a family that big?
No.
Why would you need a car that big?
Planning one.
Yeah? Hello.
Yeah, you were coming out this way. How
I
did I guess?
bet. Do you know what? Out of all the guys that are here, and that's about 250,000 of them over the...
You counted each one?
Yeah.
Really?
They're only here to see you girls. You serious?
No,
they're here to see the
cars.
chicks.
They're here to see the cars. I'm sure of it.
I've got it on tape. They said they're here to check out the chicks. And look at them. What are you doing? Zip up, girl. What's that? God forbid. And you too.
It's really hot.
Oh, I bet it is.
Aren't you
it's
feeling
all that,
hot?
It's all that manly thing in here, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah. So have you found yourself a race driver yet?
I don't think so.
Not your type?
They're probably still at the track, aren't they?
Maybe. What's your ideal driver?
Ideal driver, I don't know until I've met him.
Are you into a man that's into his cars?
Is this going to be on like
what?
a radio program or
radio?
anything? Yeah, radio.
No, it's
or
actually
TV.
video. Yeah,
But I know
see, at the end of
that.
this microphone goes all the way to the camera.
Yeah, but
she's the blonde one, right? She's the blonde one. What are you doing?
I know you're going to use the audio for radio.
No.
For TV.
Yes. See that there? Look, that's a camera.
On what show?
It's called Living Out Loud. See my badge?
Is that on Foxtel?
They're not that bright, these girls. They're not that bright. No,
Optus World.
No.
And tell me.
31 is Melbourne, free to air.
Oh, Channel 31, the alternative station.
Oh.
It is.
I can see right through, and I can see the Mini Minor over there. Join here with Shane now for a small car, big stuff.
That's right. Here we've got one of our lovely Mini Coopers that's all dressed up as a display vehicle for the Celebrity Challenge. And as you can see, it's got the celebrity stickers in here. It's got the wider wheels that you can come around.
Oh, so we've got fatter wheels.
So, yep, we've got the 17-inch wheels. Normally comes standard with a 15-inch.
Now, this is a bit of a new release for BMW, isn't it?
That's
Mini.
correct, yeah. We're actually just starting to launch the cars this weekend.
Do you have copyright on the car, like the Morris Mini Minor thing, and your guys have got a Mini? Is it?
Well, we've obviously got Mini. That's something that we've decided to go with the original, which obviously BMW owns Mini.
Okay. Always have?
Not always have. We've only in the last couple of years that we've taken on board Mini.
So you bought the rights and you're doing it in a big way.
In a big way.
In the best way to do it. Now, what are some of the features?
Certainly, if you come over to the vehicle over
here. Yeah, we'll come over.
The vehicle's locked, but
hey, that's big.
Yeah, it looks big.
It's quite spacious in there.
That's right. So this particular car is actually fitted with a cloth leather interior. Okay. And also we've got the it comes in a manual, in a 5-speed manual. Okay. It's also optional with a continuously variable transmission, which is an auto. Okay. So
comfortable to drive.
Yes.
Top speeds.
Top speed is about 210 kilometres an hour.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, it is.
For this little car.
Yeah, 1.6.
Serious?
Yeah, 1.6.
Well, what road can we go on at that? Top speed these days is about 80.
No.
You're lucky.
Over 200.
Yeah. Wow. This is the first time I'll ever get in one of these cars, the Ferrari. Wow, they're the best car in the world.
They are, definitely. They are an icon, something which people live for. A lot of the time, I think it's because of their racing history, the noise.
Have they ever lost a race?
Oh, I guess they have. Everyone, you can't win all the time.
No, that's true.
That makes...
is it the car's fault or just the driver?
A bit of both sometimes. I think it makes winning more special if it's, not constantly.
How many Ferraris are made a year?
Roughly about 4,000 worldwide.
Wow. So very limited, very exclusive.
Yep, that's...
Bet you don't have one.
No.
Bet you want one.
Yes, of course we all want one, don't we?
How much is this, what we're sitting in now?
This one here with the F1 transmission, which is the latest and quickest gear change available, roughly looking about $430,000.
Oh, is that all? I can buy a house for that. Does it come with a CD?
It does.
Oh, thank God for that.
That's great.
Now, top speed.
Or only what you can do on the road, of course.
Yeah, apart from that.
But apart from that, probably around about the 295, 300 mark.
So what's the point in having a top speed like that when you can only do about 100 on the motorways?
Oh, I guess in Europe it's the autobahns. You can stretch it out a bit.
So really you can just go across Germany in about 4 minutes?
Oh, close to that, yeah.
Basically. Well, hey, should we take it for a spin? What do you reckon? Let's go. Why not? All right. What car have you got?
What car have I got? I've got a Gemini.
Gemini. Now, have you jacked it up?
Nothing but troubles. No, it's actually scraping on the floor at the moment.
Oh, you lowered it?
Yes.
And you got a thing on the back?
Nothing on the back. No body kits. No nothing.
Why not?
No, not a Chapel Street driver.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help them. Join the Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global and acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. a world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "G'day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.